Well, my guests are already stated, and this time around we shall be looking at the recent stampedes that led to the deaths of some students, and just at the weekend also we had that some persons who were trying to get AIDS during the breaking of the Ramadan fast somewhere in Bauchi State. That was just yesterday. 4 persons lost their life, and that has brought a lot of questions on the decks about our crowd control system. This is not the first time we're having stampedes where people lost their life, especially when it comes to trying to either make a living or trying to rush for very little what they term palliatives now, where people are trying to survive and trying to get what government has made us to understand now, that for you to get AIDS now, they now target as palliatives. So people struggling to get palliatives lost their life in the process. So I have 2 gentlemen here with me in the studio. I'll start from my far right. He's a social researcher from the University of Abuja, Dr. Alakunle Olusegun. A very good morning to you.
Good morning.
All right, I have comrade Gerard Kashe. He's a public affairs analyst. Good morning to you.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Nigerians.
All right, as your opening shot, let me start with you, Kule. This is not the first time, like I said, we're having issues of stampede. If you remember the recruitment some time ago at the National Stadium, where so many persons lost their life, we've not learned any lessons since then. What could be the reason? Is it that we lack that crowd control mechanism as a country, or we just neglect our safety of our citizens?
Well, I quite disagree that we lack crowd control mechanisms. My take on this issue is that Nigerians are not good at respecting rules and regulations. The reality of the entire situation, you know, this one has to do with food issues. The other one in Lagos and Abuja then had to do with employment. So let me limit my scope to that of food issues, because ordinarily, I see it as an insult asking Nigerians to come and queue for just 2 kg, 1 kg of rice. And it's also because we don't have a good database. If we do, there should be points where people can go to pick up what, you know, they are offered. It's not until you gather people in thousands and you begin to share. Must we even make everything, must we bring everything on media? You are gathering them because you want to show the whole world we are giving them food. No. What happened to points, departments, sections? These people have identities. There is BVN, there is NIN, there are all sorts of means of identification. So I don't think it is sane enough to gather thousands of people when you know that one of the characteristics of Nigerians is impatience. Most Nigerians are not patient. They are not. And also, most want to get or collect even what they don't need. Because I saw videos where some were carrying 3 bags, 4 bags, 5 bags. What happened to those who have not been able to even get one? So the issue to me is not lack of crowd control. It's impatience and greediness from the part of Nigerians.
Let me get your own thought on that. Do you agree with Dr. Olusegun?
Well, he has made a valid point, but my agreement with him is not even the way I see it from the comrade angle. The issue of stampede of people dying, especially with regards to palliative, starting with palliative for what? We should begin with that. What are we giving palliative for? Records have shown that subsidizing either food or any item has more positive impact in the life of the society, life of people. And the records in Nigeria have shown that even what brought about this palliatives, removal of subsidy. Records have shown that, okay, as recent as few weeks ago, we saw some local government in Lagos State subsidizing the food items. Was there a crowd? Did people die? Today, if we want to conduct elections today, you see the way we move both sensitive and non-sensitive material. You see the way people queue. I think it's lack of transparency and the leadership. If we have a good leadership in our society today, we will not be having this. We don't. If you check the indices of some of the things that has happened in the past, you see that we keep repeating issues. That's because there are no consequences for bad behavior.
So how do we get?
Some persons should be held accountable for the death of people. No Nigerian life works even if a ton of any grain.
Because how do we get to this level? You just established the fact that the removal of fuel subsidy brought about the issue of palliatives.
Yes.
Don't forget, most Nigerians got to know about the word palliative during the COVID-19 lockdown, when government was trying to alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians. At this time, would you say governments lack the manpower to actually address the issues, rather than waiting when the crisis has gotten above them or beyond their power, then we start looking for a way to gather people to distribute palliatives?
You see, today in our political system, most of the political actors or players there are looking for something that will push them into the news, or maybe advance their structure or popularity. But in terms of governance, if we actually want to impact positive, giving palliative is not the best way. Because palliative giving gives room to laziness, self-entitlement mentality. It gives room to aggrandizement. It gives room to greed. It gives room to corruption and conversion of most of these things. If you recall, as recent as 3 months ago, there were reports that the federal government of Nigeria, led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, gave some grains to National Assembly members to take to their constituents and the districts. As of today, can we hit our chest, say that those palliative given to them to give to their constituents, they have achieved up to 30% of it? Many have stopped it, waiting for election to rebrand it. Maybe many must have converted it into their personal gain. There are no consequences for bad behavior, and that's why we are where we are. The best they could have done with regards to hardship in the land is to subsidize food. If they cannot subsidize food, because if you give me fish today, I finish eating, and tomorrow I get hungry, what happens then? And if I cannot get the same fish again, and I don't have anything doing meaningfully, it opens one up to crime or criminality. So better things we can do. If we cannot even subsidize the food, why don't we channel our energy in making sure that we have consistent power supply?
Okay, let me come back to Doctor. I know that during the last administration, the issue of social register was in place, where people were trying to get the actual numbers of those who are presumed to be vulnerable, those who are poor in the society. We saw the drama that played later. We saw what happened with the ministry and corruption and all that. But before I throw the question to you, we'll go on a quick break, and when we return, the program this morning on ITV continue. You're still watching the program this morning on ITV, and I still have my guests right here in the studio. Earlier, before we went on that commercial break, I was asking the doctor about the social register. Now, if we have a registrar that identifies those who are said to be poor, how come we cannot locate them and distribute these palliatives directly, just like he was trying to establish? Why do we have to call people to a crowded environment before we start distributing palliatives?
Everything social register in Nigeria, to me, is a scam. Because if truly you want to have a good social registration, it should start from the point of birth. How many births do we register? So it implies that we don't even have the social register of Nigerians, not to talk of the poorest of the poor or the vulnerables. If you want to activate your BVN, you have to queue. NIN, you have to queue. Driver's license, same thing. International passport, same thing. Then what are we talking about? Can't we have a central database system? Can't our social register be digitalized? You have a social security code, and the moment you tender your code, it brings everything about you. These things are not magic. They are not things you should go to to heaven to sort out. What exactly is our problem in this country as regards to social registration? Death rate, what do we register? Nigeria is not good at, keeping data. If over the years we have not learned from our lessons, look at the century we are. We are still relying on paper to do registration. These things are simple. If you have my database, what I need is just to go there, put my finger, then I get whatever I deserve. Leadership failure plus complacent followership is the major setback to development in Nigeria. The leaders have been able to weaponize poverty. They have been able to weaponize poverty over the years. We have witnessed situations where you want to give people 1 kg of rice, but because you want to make it to the headlines, you call ITV, AIT, NTA, let them come and cover the event. Of bags of rice of how many bags? We don't do things with utmost sincerity. In fact, it is very important to note this. When you are helping the poor, keep your camera. Yes, when you are helping the poor, you keep your camera. But what we have now is a situation whereby any little thing you want to give to the masses, you must call, news outlets. Everybody must be there because you just want to show the world that this is what you are doing. At times when you even open the so-called palliatives, it is nonsense. Yeah. But the news is already everywhere that so-so persons gave so-so persons this. How adequate, how effective and how efficient are these palliatives we are talking about? Because year in, year out, look at what happened during COVID-19 era. I witnessed one. I witnessed it live in Gwagwalada. And I saw the way people were, people had broken legs. People even died. Yeah. Just because of what? Just because of rice. And also that, like I said earlier on, that Nigerians also need to reconfigure their attitude and character. I saw people carrying bikes. I saw people carrying generator. What do you need that for?
What you don't need.
What you don't need. In advanced countries that we even copy, that we emulate, one of the major setbacks of this country is that we do not domesticate our policies. There's what we call domestication of policy. If you are copying something from America, you should operate it in such a way that it's going to align with the nature and composition of your own society. You don't just copy and paste. But what we do here is copy and paste. It is sad that in this century, Nigerians are dying. Not because hunger is killing them, but because they even go to places where they are to get food and die in the process. Look at the case of Lagos when custom was selling rice at subsidized rate. 7 people died. To me, most of these deaths are caused by being impatient. If you have been asked to come with your name, ordinarily whatever we share in this country can never be enough. Because people are going through a lot. You are not looking, you are not seeing, you are not feeling it too much because on a daily basis you still wear a suit and tie and sit under AC. an average.
All Nigerians.
We are all Nigerians, but Nigerians. No, outside that, your own purchasing power is different from that of others, even if you are going to buy the same rate. Take for instance, somebody who earns 30,000 naira as minimum wage. In fact, how many states of the federation have been able to pay 18,000? Even the 30,000 naira is due. They are supposed to have even changed it as we speak. If you go to the streets and see what people eat, you sympathize with most Nigerians.
Let me give Kachi the floor to react to some of these issues you just raised now. We don't have a valid social register for us to actually ascertain that this is the numbers of those who are poor, or these are the people that actually need this palliative. Like you said, the incidents that happened in Gwagwa, even the one that happened recently at Jiwa, somewhere in Gwagwa there, you saw people carrying generators also from the agric warehouse, things they don't need. Now, how did we get to this point that Nigerians cannot really, I would have asked him the question, how do you really ascertain the very poor in the society before you start saying, okay, these are the people that need palliative?
You know, I love with regards to the question you asked, how do you ascertain a poor person in Nigeria? They're looking at outside the moral angle or physical looking of a poor person. You understand? If you are saying, okay, you want to gather, register, or get the figures of poor people, you can. It's not possible to do that in Nigeria. Not that we don't have the capacity, but because of policies that we create somersaults on a daily basis, people go into poverty almost per hour. If you recall, just only removal of subsidy, many companies downsize their staff. Just removal of subsidy. Many people that eat via traveling or enjoy certain things cannot do that again. There are certain policies you create. It crashes whatever reports or register you have. But that aside, you talk about people taking what they don't need, like what happened in Jiwa and the other areas, breaking of warehouse and the looting things that's not even for the stomach. We got to that point because of the same leadership. Today, if we are a sincere nation, more than half of people leading us are not supposed to be there. Many are supposed to be in prison, but they are the ones that are being celebrated. If you, as a follower, and you want to imbibe in good morals, in doing good, and you see people that have questionable characters being applauded, given awards, being set up as your leader, people you should look up to, they are the ones that make your law, they are the ones that interpret your law, they are the ones that bring out policies, or they could do some work for you. And at the end of the day, you see them going far of the law. What they initiated in form of our laws, they will go contrary to it, and there's no consequences. You as a fellow, what do you do? So it boils down to leadership. If we begin to lead by example, even people saying that, like my brother here saying, Nigerians don't have patience. I agree, but not fully. If we have leadership that is very, very robust and responsible, followers will follow suit. Today is Monday in Abuja, and say we have traffic light, and every motorist is supposed to obey traffic light, and you as a motorist, and you are moving, and you saw people in convoy who are supposed to be the leaders breaking such traffic rules, chasing people out of the road. What then can you say? These are people that are supposed to lead by example. These are the people that will still sit down, make laws that if you break this rule, look at the consequences for it. You see them breaking it. What is it telling back to the society? So these are the things. Aggrandizement that we see in the Nigerian leadership system gives room to the followers to do such. Once we get the leadership right, every other thing will trickle down. When you see a leader that does not chase people out of the road, that does not violate traffic rule, that does not cut corners, that that does not bypass due process, that does not pad budgets or do things in an illegal way, before 2-3 years, followership will follow suit. But since we have leadership that will say one thing and then do another thing, we will continue to get that, and the blame game will continue to be there. If you push them, they will blame the ordinary people.
Okay.
One ordinary people is looking up to them to do the right thing.
All right. I know the president's spokesperson at the weekend said most of the policies of government that were introduced towards alleviating the sufferings of Nigeria after the removal of subsidy are already yielding some results, and is appealing to Nigerians to continue to support the government. One particular area which I feel many persons are asking questions is in the area of the poverty alleviation program. I remember the Ministry of Humanitarian and Poverty Alleviation, after the corruption scandal that hit the suspended minister, many expected that the program would have resumed and probably used to resolve these issues we're having, where Nigerians are invading warehouses and then dying trying to get aids or palliatives from the so-called politicians like we mentioned here. So what's the problem with our own social intervention programs that we have this corruption scandal all over? Does it mean that there's no sincerity, just the way it tries to establish on the side of our leaders, or we are not just ready to utilize those kind of ventures to take care of the poor?
Majority of Nigerian leaders are not sincere. They are not. I'm saying it fully with my chest without any fear of contradiction. Most of our leaders are not sincere. Look at the corruption scandal in that ministry, for example. Why would you even make attempts to steal from the poorest of the poor? Like, it's a very big question. Why would you steal from the poorest of the poor? What do you need what belongs to the poorest of the poor for as an elite? What do you need it for? The essence of leadership is to lead. And when you lead well, your attitude influences other people's behavior. Then they follow suit, like he puts it. The problem in this country as regards to poverty alleviation programs has been there for years. What are we alleviating? Have we been able to alleviate poverty? Or poverty rate continue to increase? Most Nigerians are suffering from multi-dimensional poverty. Multi-dimensional. The poverty does not just have only one face. Multiple. The moment we get these things right, Nigeria will go to the right path. Because as we speak, all the abnormalities of 1960 till now, we have not been able to solve them. These are issues that continue to metamorphose into bigger issues on a daily basis. At some point, we were the headquarters of poverty in the world. That sounds insane. That sounds embarrassing. That sounds unacceptable to many of us. This problem is very simple to solve. Yes. You don't need to give any House of Representatives grains, hundreds of millions to give to their constituents. Why are we making people lose their focus? Your focus is to make law.
Check and balances.
Check the government. Come up with laws that will favor the masses, that will transform the country. There must be social change in Nigeria. There must. We must be, in fact, we should be able to alter, modify, transform our pattern of relationship, our pattern of behavior. Those House of Reps members that were giving money and grace, how many have they shared?
Well, we
even when they want to share, even when they want to share, they don't really share to the people. They share to their party members. Because they have the register of their party members. Even when they do their so-called empowerment.
Well, we cannot substantiate that claim.
You cannot, but I can.
Let's as your parting words for this very discussion segment. What do you think should be the way out?
The way out, not just the distribution of palliative and the stampede and the death and other things that occur with it. Generally, solving these jigsaws that we have today with regards to either avoidable death or issue of escalating hardship, it's very simple. We should change this our attitude of that makes us lazy, allocation. We should restructure, reconfigure our way of governance. It shouldn't be at the end of every month people will gather together, they will share, and then maybe you get to your own state or your local government, you gather people again, you share. We should change the narrative. We can't continue to do the same thing and expect to progress. No. We should restructure this country, because if we restructure this country, every zone has what works for him. The way on life of every zone matters in decision making. You don't sit at the center and decide for somebody in Sokoto and decide for somebody in Port Harcourt, whereas the lifestyle in Port Harcourt is not the same lifestyle in Sokoto. These are one of the things that gives us further brought us where we are. Because if we restructure, it will give room for competence and merit.
Gentlemen, I'm sincerely sorry, we have to end this discussion here due to time, but I just hope that we may have more time subsequently to invite you again to share more light on this issue. Thank you so much for being on the program. Dr. Lakunle Olusegun is a social researcher at the University of Abuja. Thank you so much for coming. Comrade Gerard Kachi, public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for being on the program. All right, I'll move over now to our Benin Network studio. It's now time for This Morning on ITV, social media.